This is module 7. It's about DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. It's the protocol which assists in assigning IP address information automatically or dynamically onto the edge devices. Yeah. Within this module, we're going to look at actually 3 areas: the concept of DHCP version 4, and then configure Cisco iOS DHCP version 4 server, and then configure DHCP version 4 client. So the concept: dynamic host configuration protocol version 4, it assigns address information and other configuration information dynamically. Because desktop client typically makes up bulky network nodes, DHCP is extremely useful and time-saving tool for network administrators. Imagine if you have 100 and if you assign all those computers or the nodes IP address statically, it's a tiresome exercise. So a dedicated DHCP server is scalable and relatively easy to manage. However, in small branch or small office or home office location, router can be configured to provide DHCP server, DHCP version 4 service without a need of dedicated server. So small settings of network. Most of the devices that are used, like those routers, they have the service enabled, and it can actually assign out IP addresses to devices that intend to connect to that router. So DHCP version 4 server dynamically assigns or leases an IP address from pool of address for limited period of time chosen by themselves, or until the client no longer needs the address. That once the IP address is assigned to the device, it can actually it's expired, or when the device is no longer needs. If let's say you've used you're no longer part of the network, then that IP address it can be pulled and then assigned to other device. Clients leaves the information from the server for an administratively defined period. So administrator configure DHCP server to set the leases, to time out at a different interval. That once the IP address is set, it is set defined period of time. Then after that defined period of time, it is pulled back and then made available for other devices. So when the lease expires, the client must ask for another address, although the client is typically reassigned the same address. That whereas the lease expires, it's possible that that PC can request for another, a different IP address, but most of the time, that very IP address that was assigned to that computer is reassigned. It is reassigned again back to that machine. DHCP version 4 operation. DHCP version 4 works in client-server mode. The client-server mode, it means that there is a client and then there is the server. So the client initiates the request and then the client replies. replies with the IP address information. So the client connects to the network with that leased IP address until the lease expires. So the client must contact the DHCP server periodically to extend the lease. This lease mechanism ensures that the clients that move or power off do not keep the address. That's the reason why there is a need for lease. That IP address is leased, it's not assigned permanently. Once the lease expires, then the server can be the server can assign that very IP address to other devices. So when the lease expires, the DHCP server returns the address, the pool, where it can be relocated as necessary, or to any other PC that is in need of the address. So the steps to obtain the lease, there are 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first one is DHCP discovery. We have DHCP offer, then DHCP request, and then DHCP acknowledgement. So in the first place, it's the end device, the client that initiates, as you can see. I would like to request an IP address, sending this in broadcast form. The servers, they will receive, and then the servers are going to reply with DHCP. Yes, I'm a server. DHCP server, here is an address to offer. I'm offering this, this, this. So if there are like 3 servers, all of them, they will try to reply with the offer. Then the client is this time to select, to choose from the offers that have been sent back to the client. So I accept IPv4 address offer, and then once it sends the acceptance, then the server replies with the acknowledgement, allowing the client to use the offered IP address information. Then once the lease expires, then we expect the lease to be renewed. So steps to renew a lease, to renew a lease. So we have DHCP request that immediately once the lease expires, then the client sends a DHCP request, because at that step, or that step, it exactly knows the server, so it will have to send the request to maintain the exact IP address information. So before the lease expires, the client sends a DHCP request message directly to the server that originally offered the IP address. If the DHCP within a specified amount of time, then the client broadcasts another DHCP request, so that one of the other server can extend the lease. So DHCP acknowledgement on receiving on receiving the DHCP request message, the server verifies the lease information by returning the DHCP acknowledgement. So those are the 2 steps. There are 2 steps within the renewal, lease renewal. So configure Cisco IOS DHCP server. So as you can see, we have a router here, whereby you can actually configure this router to serve as the DHCP server. We have the steps. So we have the steps if you have to configure the DHCP server. Step 1, exclude IP address. That if you have an address, you can try to specify the range of the addresses that you feel you want to reserve. Maybe from 1 to 1 up to 1 to maybe 10. And so that the service, it starts giving dynamic addresses from 11 and above. Step number 2, you define the pool, IP DHCP pool name. then you state the name and then the network. That is step number 3. Configure DHCP pool, the address, and then default gateway router must be configured by using the keyword command network. You state the network and then default router to state the router. So within the step 3, these are the things that we need to, information that we need to provide, or that is supposed to be provided. Network, you state the network where the IP addresses are going to be generated from. The default router, that is default gateway, the address that is going to be assigned as default gateway address. DNS, if you have DNS server on the network. Domain name, if it's there. Then you can even alter the lease time. The default, it's 24 hours, but you can reduce maybe up to like 30 or even 15, that every after 15 minutes, the IP address, it has to be renewed. So this is an example on what we're supposed to do. You start step number 1, you exclude. You exclude address. As you can see, it's from 1 up to 9. Then still you can actually skip, because when you look at this, it's contiguous from 1 up to 9. But when it comes to this, it means that we have skipped some other IP addresses and then reserved the last address. And then after that, step number 2, you define the pool. IP DHCP pool, LAN 1, this is the name, the pool name, this. And then network, you state the network address where the IP addresses are going to be generated. Then default gateway, or which default router, which is the same as default gateway. So this is the IP address that is going to be assigned as gateway IP address. DNS server, it's also here. Domain name, also stated, and that is it. So that is the example how to assign the DHCP. So the verification of DHCP, you can run the command show running config, and then you include the section of DHCP. Any configuration that includes DHCP displayed. Then we have show IP DHCP binding. You can actually see the IP addresses that are issued out, that are leased, and then even the computer. So with show IP DHCP binding, it helps to list the IP address that has been issued out together with the MAC address that is mapped to that very IP address. Then show IP DHCP server statistics. It shows displays the count information regarding the number of DHCP version 4 messages that have been sent and then received. So here, as you can see, this is just the sample, the output, show running, config, and then section DHCP. As you can see, any statement that is listed there, it's part of DHCP service. There is the information that is configured under our DHCP, all the information here. It's one way of verifying the DHCP configuration. Then we have the binding, show IP DHCP binding. As you can see, it's this IP address 10.10 with the MAC address, which is this, and then the lease expire when this. The type, it's automatic, and then the state active. Then we have DHCP statistics, which is this. So as you can see, memory usage, it's this address pool, binding so far, automatic bindings, we have the 2. And then as you can see, the messages sent, the boot request, we have 0. Discover, we have 4 for discover. Then the request, we have 2. And then the lease info, 0. Verify DHCP client received IP address. So the other end of end device of the client, all we need is just to run this command, IP config space, then /all. So it's IP config, you leave a space, / and then all. So it's the one to give all this information. But for us, we're interested, yes, as you can see, the domain name, we have the MAC address here, we have the preferred IP address, we have subnet mask, we have the lease obtained when the IP address was assigned, and then the lease expires. So when you look at this, it's Saturday, then Sunday, meaning that it's a 24-hour. You see this? 24-hour lease. Then we have the default gateway, we have the DHCP server, and then the DNS server. That is at the then in case, let's say you want to disable the service, yes, we have we have managed to enable or create the DHCP service. We can disable it by running the command no service P. So it will just without deleting. That does not mean that you've deleted, but you have disabled the service. Then we have what you call the relay, DHCP relay. So idea, we say in one of the slides or the functionality of the router, that the router doesn't extend what we call the broadcast messages. The broadcast messages. But with DHCP relay, it means that the DHCP request, it will be extended. It's going to be extended by router, since the server is on a different network. So here we have our server, which is this. Then we want this PC to pick the IP address automatically from this server. So when it sends the broadcast, this router, it will not accept. It will accept the broadcast, but it won't extend it to this other network from B to A. But if it's a DHCP relay, the relay helper, this, then it means that the router is going to help and then relates the DHCP request to this network so that it can discover the server. So there are the areas where we're going to do the practical. Yeah. So as you can see, this is router 1. This is router. Everything is set. And then you add the helper. And this is the server, and you allow it on the interface. So the helper is going to be done here. So as you can see here, we see I cannot forward broadcast between networks. So once the helper is assigned on this interface, then automatically, actually, the relay is going to be assigned on this, and then you have to state this IP address. That every time the DHCP, the broadcast DHCP message is sent here, then it is extended to this server, only this server. So then other services, the other service broadcast relayed, they are here. That IP helper address, it can actually be used to on the router to locate the time on different network, the TACAS, the DNS, DHCP boot server, DHCP boot client, TFTP, NetBIOS, and NetBIOS diagram. So all those ones, you can configure them to have the, actually to, you can configure them so that the broadcast messages for intending to gather information on those protocols can be able easily broadcasted to onto other networks. So minus that service enabled, then it means that the router will never actually extend those messages. So here is the packet trace activity. You will complete the following objective: configure router as DHCP server, then configure DHCP relay, configure router as DHCP client, and then verify. Configure DHCP client. So here we have our Cisco router as DHCP client. You can configure this router, this one here, to pick IP address from the modem or from the service provider, the site. But this IP, as you can see, this interface here, you just call it with this, and then you put the IP address DHCP so that it picks IP address automatically. So here is, as you can see, interface G001 and then IP address DHCP, no shutdown. So automatically it will pick the IP address. As you can see, it is here. And then verify, you will notice that the IP address is assigned this. Then we have what you call home router as a DHCP client, that when it comes to routers, when it comes to the routers, home routers, when it comes to home routers, these devices, they do actually have those interfaces where you can actually set, as you can see here, it is set the internet connection type. It is automatic configuration DHCP. And automatically, this router, it's going to pick IP address automatically from the service provider. And then again, this device itself, it can actually, because it's picking IP address automatically, and also it has the DHCP provision whereby all the devices that connect to it can also assign. It also assigns the IP address information and other address information automatically. Yeah, so that is the end. So this is our packet tracer. Now I'm going to try and drag and drop some few devices so that we can try out how we'll try actually what we covered in the slides. So I need a server. Yes, yeah, then I need a switch, some few computers. Few computers, and then maybe this here and this, and then now this, then this. Okay, so here we have two networks. Let me do some debugging. That we have 192.168.1.0/24 on this, and then on the other network, I'm going to have two. So that is the simple labeling that we can have in our topology. And then we do the configurations. Now, our objective is just to try out the DHCP within the router or within the iOS, or then have we can again enable the DHCP onto a standalone or a dedicated server. That is what we're going to try out That is when we're going to try out what we call DHCP relay. So I'll just access the router. I hope you guys know how to access the router using console connection. So this statement I will reply with no, and then go to configuration mode. The first interface, it's interface, then G00, then address, paste, and then remove this. I will just give it a 1, then subnet mask 255, 55, then 255.0, 1, 2, 3, 4. They have exceeded, so I don't need this. Press enter, then no shutdown. So the first interface, it's up. I will exit and then work on the second interface, which is 0, 1, and then the address a 2.1, then no shutdown. Okay. Then after that, I need to force this router to be the DHCP service. So I will first start by excluding the IP address, IPD, IP, then space DHCP excluded address. So we can use a range. The range, I will just actually have, let me go to 100, sorry, up to 100, so that the first IP address should be 101. And then this, after that, because the reason why we exclude that those IP addresses, they won't be assigned automatically by the DHCP service, but you can use them. But if you're to use them, or if that be used, you have to configure them manually or statically. So I'll create the pool. It's IP DHCP pool. The pool name, then network, just paste it because I have it there, and then the subnet mask together, 255. After that, the default router. So the default router, it's the gateway, the address that you want to be assigned as the gateway. But of course, it's the IP address that we assigned on the router's interface, and then press enter. If you want, you can even put DNS, DNS server. Let me just put different 1.1.1, but we have we don't have that device on our network, so it's optional. So that is what is going to be assigned to the other side. So with this information, it's enough for us. It's enough. Now we can actually check any of the computer here and we see whether it will be able to pick the IP address automatically. So I'll just open my PC there, go to desktop, IP configuration, and then we have two options, static and then the DHCP. Static, that is if you want to set the address, you type the address here, subnet mask, and then the default gateway. But I want the information to be picked automatically. I'll click on DHCP. As you can see, our first IP address, it's 192.168.1.101, and that is what we are actually expecting. So we're right. So even if I don't ping, there is no need of pinging, since I'm able to pick or this PC is able to pick the IP address from the router, then it means that the connection is perfect, or it is correct. You go to, this is the second PC, PC3, desktop, we do the same. So we expect 102 there, we're successful. And then lastly, we have PC4, and then the desktop. Still you do the same IP configuration and then do the same. There we are. Okay, so with just the few steps, I'm going to go back to the router and then disable. I want to disable this service. How are we going to disable it? We'll first exit. You go back to global configuration mode and then run the command no DHCP, no service. Yeah, it's no service. DHCP. Press enter. So if I go back here, I should not be able to pick the IP address. So I will first click the static option so that the IP addresses are released, and then go back and click on DHCP. We expect to have 169, a block of the address from the other block, 169.254, an indication that the PC have failed to locate the DHCP server on the network. Yeah. So we're going to proceed and then we set this. Now this time I want us to use the server, the standalone server, to pick the IP addresses. So when you look at this, it's 169 this. We have this. Yeah. So let's go to the server. Step number one, we need to set the server with the IP address. Here, it has to have the manual IP address, but on the other network, the address, it was 2. Did I configure the other one? It was 2.1, so here it's going to be 2.2, then the subnet mask, then 2.1 as the gateway. So we can even actually test and we see whether we'll be able to reach the default gateway. But let's begin with this command, the ipconfig config space / then odd. So as you can see, the IP address is this. So let's ping and we see. Ping and then we see then .2.1 successful. So we can proceed now. So I will close this and then go to services. So under services, we're interested in DHCP. You click on DHCP, step number one, it's off. You activate it, enable it. And then we have options here. Number one, and here we have the default gateway. So this is the information that we actually intended, the information that is supposed to be given out to the end devices. So we have default gateway. The default gateway, because here this is what we are targeting, that these computers should be assigned IP addresses that are generated from this server, this one here. So the gateway for this computer, it's this IP address that is assigned on this interface here. This. So it's what you're targeting now. It's what you are targeting. That you are targeting the IP. This the default gateway for these computers. It's the IP address assigned on this point, which is 1.1. And it should be this server to assign all that IP address information to these devices. Okay, so the default gateway here is going to be 1.1. Then the DNS, let's just change that so that we can see the effect. I'll give this as 100, 100. Okay, that we can see the effect. So the starting IP address, it's going to be, since the other one it's 1 dot something, the starting IP address, I will just give it 1.2, the 200, that will be the starting IP, the start IP address. Then the subnet mask is here. Then maximum number of users. I expect 30. So it will just start from this IP address and then it counts 30. It counts 30 IP address. Automatically here, the last one, it will be 229 to total 30 IP addresses. Now with this information, I can actually edit by saving. I'll just save, not to add. I'll just save. Okay, so I have saved, and then these computers, they will not be able to pick IP address from the server, because the router will not allow the broadcast, the DHCP broadcast message. So what you're going to do is just to access the router specifically on this interface, and then we put the DHCP helper, or we state the DHCP helper address. Okay, so still I'll go to the router, then call the interface, which is interface G00. That is where we're going to put the helper. Press enter. So it is IP DHCP helper. So it's IP helper address. Then now the address that you are going to state, we're on this interface, this port here, and then the IP address, it's going to be for this server. But every time there is a need for a DHCP broadcast message, then the message should be directed to that IP address. And that address is 192.168.2, then .2. You press enter. Is it? As it. So we should be able to pick the IP address. Now the difference, it's going to be this, that this time the address, the first IP address, it's going to be 192.168.1.201. And then the default, the DNS this time, because in the first place it was 11, this time we changed it to 100, 100, 100, 100. So those are the key areas that we expect, where we expect to see the change or the difference. So let's go to the PC here. Oh, it has already picked. You see this? that the DNS it's 100, this is 202. We have this, it's 200. Oh, the other one was the first, sorry, the first IP address is 201. And then even we have this, which is 201. So it has worked. And that marks the end of module 7.